Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm Tim Diacono, joined today by Julian Bonici, and these are the stories we're going to be discussing today. Malta misses out on UK's travel green list again. Former PN Minister calls for change to Malta's local plans. Melvin Toma says he was pressured to destroy crucial tapes 3 weeks before his arrest. MCOS students have been left waiting for their exam results due to union directives. And the Juventus Academy has permanently set up shop in Malta. And stick around for the end of the discussion, where we're going to continue our discussions on transport solutions. Today we're going to have Daniel Grech from Malta Public Transport and AI researcher Alexiei Dingli to discuss the future of transport, as well as technology in transport and autonomous buses and other new concepts. So very interesting future-based discussions. Stick around for the end of Lovin Daily to find out more. Ju, the UK has unfortunately ignored us again.
Yes, from one transport to another, right? So Malta will not be on the UK's green travel list for the time being, after the British government announced that no new countries will be added. That means if you're traveling to and from the UK, you're going to need to quarantine between 5 to 10 days and provide a negative PCR test. You can shorten your quarantine period to the test and release scheme. That's if you test several times over a number of days and obviously get a number of negative tests. Now, obviously, the news is quite a blow, I think, to the tourism industry that was sort of gearing up for reopening of the sector after a year of, complete uncertainty. UK residents and UK citizens make up, the most tourists that come to our country, and I'm sure the schemes the government were promoting were probably targeting quite a lot of UK residents, so a lot of money lost over there, I'm sure, as well. Hopefully, that will change soon. It all depends really on the state of play, particularly with the UK. There's a lot of mixed misinformation about it. About 2 days ago there was The Independent in the UK actually claiming Malta was going to be on the list, so it's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, and it seems for now it will continue in the tourism sector.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a big blow for Malta. Everyone's looking forward to the summer months. It's also a big blow, to be fair, on the British people as well. It has to be said that it must be extremely frustrating to live there and try and plan something a few days or weeks in advance. So it's even before they were only allowed to go to Portugal, right? Now they can't even go to Portugal because that's been removed, and it's impossible to plan anything, and the government is basically telling them don't go on holiday. It's extremely frustrating situation, completely unsustainable in the long term, and let's hope that this is resolved very, very soon. Moving on to our next story, former PN Minister Tony Fenech has admitted that the infamous local plans need to be updated. So these local plans were approved back in 2006, and they're basically the backbone of planning in Malta. So street by street, examples of what can and cannot be built. So this latest controversy erupted after Tony Fenech noted that a street in his hometown of Birkirkara was faced with a particularly ugly development, a block of apartments right in front of the road. This is despite the fact that all the other houses in the street had front gardens. This one didn't. The reason being was that the local plans said that houses in this street should not have front gardens. Completely bizarre. I was saying they should change, which I mean, at least, okay, it was a mistake back then to include it, but yes, now it's time for change, right? Enough complaining about stuff that happened 15 years ago and pointing political fingers at others. I think it's our country that's being destroyed bit by bit by these developments, and the longer you keep whining about the local plans, just change them. change them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I know you said they were a backbone. It's no wonder the planning authority doesn't have a spine, really. But like you said, right? Oftentimes, we're justifying these developments according to local plans that are about 16 years old. It's high time the government changes that to reflect at least what we need in this country and actually put aesthetics front-facing. On that exact topic, Lovin Malta actually wrote about a skinny building in Gozo that outraged social media, but it turned out it's actually not a skinny building. It's one super long box room corridor, about 22 square meters, with a whole flat wrapping around it. So it's really important that our planning policies actually start to represent some design principles. I know Aaron Farrugia, the minister, has been working on reforming Malta's planning policies, but we really can't wait any longer. On to our next story. So there were new revelations in court yesterday in the case against Jorgen Fenech after a new recording was played to the court. This recording was 45 minutes long and was taken about 3 to 4 weeks before the arrest of Melvin Thoma and Jorgen Fenech. So we're really starting to near the end of these recordings. It was another conversation between Melvin Thoma and Johan Cremona. Johan Cremona is the business partner of Jorgen Fenech, who was also a confidant of Thoma. And the content of the tape is actually, quite worrying. You see Johan Cremona actually pressuring Melvin Thoma to dispose of the tapes altogether. That would have been the one concrete piece of evidence linking Jorgen Fenech to the murder, sort of trying to assure him, listen, the police are only doing a money laundering investigation, and once they do the searches, they'll find that evidence box and sort of everything will go awry in their plans. Johan Cremona made a lot of claims, even Jorgen Fenech, telling them that we know where you're going to get raided and we're going to get a list for you, the involvement of certain police figures in it all. However, Melvin Thoma, yes, they told the court that, at this point he really wasn't believing them and had already had it in his mind that he was going to angle for a pardon. In his words, he said, I had a lot more evidence than Vince Muscat, and I knew I would get a pardon because of it. I knew Europol were looking at me, looking at my phone. Remember, the men were really deeply involved and actually informed, about what was going on from the investigation side. There were actually some more interesting details in court. Yesterday, Jason Azzopardi, who's the Parte Civile lawyer, actually revealed a lot of signal messages between Jorgen Fenech and Melvin Thoma literally days before Jorgen Fenech and Melvin Thoma's arrest. Jorgen Fenech talks about, how he's tired and how they'll all be able to rest when it's over, even implying that at that stage, they actually thought they'd get away with it, I don't know what you think about it, Tim.
Well, what I find particularly interesting over here is the fact that if Cremona was pressuring Melvin Thoma to destroy his tapes, it means he knew the tapes existed. And in fact, even Jorgen Fenech did know as well that he was being recorded. Lovin Malta has actually reported the exact moment where he confronted Melvin Thoma about this and said, I know you're recording me. And he continued recording him. And Jorgen Fenech knew. And I'm not exactly sure what this means, but it definitely means that the tapes need to be taken in that context, right? If someone's going to be recording you, you're not going to say the things that you're going to tell that person if you weren't being recorded. It's quite obvious. You might actually say some other things that will divert the attention of investigators and perhaps toss in a few red herrings to lead them off your trail. So I don't think this has been spoken about enough in the context of Melvin Thoma's famous tapes. The fact that the person he was trying to nail knew that what Melvin Thoma was trying to do. So moving on to our next story, MCOS students have been left in the dark waiting for their exam results due to directives issued by the teachers union. So they've carried out their exams after but several months of unfortunately being locked out of their own school. Now the year is over, or so they think, but the exam results are corrected, but the teachers can't give them the results because of directives from the teachers union, the Malta Union of Teachers, that is. And this seems to stem from an issue with the collective agreement, and they're using the correcting and handing out of exam results as a bargaining tool at MCOS to get what they want. Unfortunately, it's not the first time that students have been used as a negotiating chip, and yeah, like they've been completely ignored. Once again, not the first time, they've been completely ignored during the pandemic, and now they're being completely ignored over here as well.
Yeah, you know, how nice to feel like when you're a bargaining tool, right, between a union and an authority dispute. What's just really worrying me is what's happening at the negotiating stage, right? It seems every few months, unions and the authorities they fall under are in dispute. You know, one is striking, one is protesting, one is, you know, making threats. You know, I think we really need to sort of solve this communication between union heads and government representatives and actually start working on building towards a common ground between two people and not let students, you know, pay the price for their squabbles, you know. On to our last story. It's all for football fans, young ones in particular. Juventus Academy is going to set up permanent shop in Malta, offering, you know, young footballers a real good opportunity, you know, to hone their skills, their talent, you know, and hopefully, you know, actually, you know, make a name for themselves on the professional stage. Now, the training facility is going to offer both group and individual training sessions. They're going to be all throughout the week, and they're going to kick off from September for kids from 6 to 14 years old. If you really want to get involved, go on Lovin Malta's website. There's an article all about it, and there's a link taking you to the application space. You're going to have to apply by the end of June latest. Now, I'm really excited for it, you know, as we've seen in Malta, you know, especially in recent months, you see Hayley Bujea, you know, a young teenage prodigy, you know, light up this area femminile, winning the Young Player of the Year in her debut season. You know, who knows? Hopefully, you know, this training camp, which is all part of the Juventus brand, right, a Serie A legend with so many international facilities, you know, for some Maltese players to really make that next step.
Yeah, don't forget to see the countries smaller than Malta in terms of population. That's Iceland, knock out England of the Euro Cups a few years ago. So, I mean, honestly, this is the standard where Malta needs to be, and hopefully camps like this and academies like this will help us get there. Not now, but in a few years' time. That's all from us today. Make sure you stick around for our upcoming discussion with Daniel Grech and with Alexiei Dingli on the future of transport and solutions to transport in Malta. And before then, here's a book review that we've prepared with the National Book Council.
What would you do if you were looking through some old family photos and you saw someone who looked a bit out of place? That is the premise of Antoinette Borges' Fitishni. In English, it means look for me or search for me. It's about a boy called Jack. He goes on a journey that spans 7 decades. The Civil War in Spain, Second World War in Malta, and other historical events. Published by Merlin, is a cracking read. It's a very plot-heavy book. Lots of action, there's some twists and turns, and there's even some stuff that's beyond the grave. It's totally unpredictable, and you will not put it down.
Dal-filmat huwa parti minn serja mtella minn Lovin Malta u Kunsill Nazzjonali tal-Ktieb li fiha tinlaqgħu il-pubbliku ma' kotba importanti tal-letteratura Maltija. Hemm ħafna x'tiskopri hemm barra.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now Daniel Grech from Malta Public Transport and AI researcher Alexiei Dingli. Thank you very much for being on Lovin Daily with us today for this discussion on new solutions in public transport, a very topical discussion at the moment. So let's start with you, Daniel. Over the past few years, Malta has seen an incredible increase in the range of options when traveling across Malta. Private and public options, buses, taxis. Was this always part of your plan?
Indeed, yes. There has been an explosion in the number of options in transport, both private and public. We are part of that. I think it has always been in the plan of government, of various governments over the years, where there was a full liberalization of the market some years ago, which then led in turn to attracting new private operators in the sector. including Malta Public Transport ourselves. We are a private operator. But also various cab companies, transport sharing. Even until yesterday, a couple of days ago, sorry, there has been also the launch of a fast ferry service between Malta and Gozo. So this is all part of the full liberalization of the transport industry in Malta.
In fact, nowadays, as you mentioned, you can actually catch a Tallinnja bike, right, and use it to board the fast ferry, land, and then either walk and then park your bike there, and then walk or carpool to work. This is all without even you touching a private car. So how important is this type of interconnectivity when it comes to providing options to people, alternative options to people besides the private car?
I think it's essential, it's very important, because there isn't one single mode of transport which would probably hit all the needs of every single person. And offering all these options and the interconnectivity between them is key to getting people to stop using their car and to switch to other modes of transport. They might not necessarily drop their car forever or for every type of transport, but at least there could be other trips which they would need to do where one of these other options that we're saying, the public transport options, or a bicycle or a ferry, might be more convenient than the private car itself. So just before here, we're speaking, myself and Alexiei, for example, going to Valletta. Doesn't even make any sense to use any other option except the bus. A couple of days ago, the fast ferry business was launched, and as you said, so you can get a Tallinnja bike from one of the stations around Valletta, drop it off very close to the ferry, go on the ferry and get another bike from Malta and Gozo. And it's an electric bike, so there's very little effort, and cycle all the way up to Rabat. So there are all these options which offer the last mile solution, which connect different villages and towns, which are very important to passengers and to the individuals when planning out their journeys.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these travel options can also be booked or pre-booked online as well through your phone. So how important is it for it to be easy and user-friendly for people to move to these alternative modes of transport?
Again, it's extremely important. And the mobile phone, the smartphone, today became a tool which we can't live without. There's an app for everything, and the same thing goes with the transportation. So having the convenience of predicting your travel by booking it on an app, making sure that you have the peace of mind that you can find a vehicle wherever you are, of being in a position to drop off that vehicle, whether it's a bike, whether it's a car sharing service, for example, knowing that you can drop it off somewhere. So all these are very important things. For example, I mentioned again the fast ferry. We have just integrated the Tallinnja card payment system with both fast ferry operators, where one can book their ticket and then pay with their Tallinnja card. Which is very important, because besides booking their day and time when they would like to travel and return, they also can pay with this payment system, the Tallinnja card, which is integrated with so many different modes of transport as well. We have also integrated it with the lift, for example, the Baracca lift. So again, I can these couple of days I drove to Valletta, but I stopped in a car park, and then I went down with the lift, I paid with my card, went to the ferry, paid again with my card, went to Gozo and back. So different modes of transport, interlinked in this case with the Tallinnja card as a payment system. But going back to your question as well, with the possibility to book from my phone, and also having that peace of mind that I have a seat on the ferry itself, for example.
So Alexiei, recently we saw Malta Public Transport launch the autonomous bus concept. It seems like something a bit futuristic, but it's something that's happening right now. So without getting ahead of ourselves, like how realistic is this for Malta, and what will it mean exactly?
Okay, Tim. So first of all, let's not forget that autonomous vehicles is something which is already operating in quite a number of states in the United States. So even though we might think about it as something futuristic, really and truly the technology is here and it works fine. So I think it's more a matter of trust until people can trust that you're in a car now and there is no driver in that car. Of course, it's much more convenient because now the car is optimized. It can track by GPS, check the location of where it's going, know where there is traffic, know if there's an accident a priori, and of course take alternative routes. So the amount of convenience which such a vehicle would give us is something unbelievable. But as I said, I think we have to go now for that culture change. Are we going to trust a driverless bus? And if yes, that will usher new things, because of course the next step would be the self-driving cars. And when it comes to self-driving cars, it's a transportation revolution because now the concept of a car is changing completely. Imagine when you're driving to work with your self-driving car, all right? Probably it won't be even yours. So you just summon that self-driving car, it's come for you behind the door and takes you to your place of work. But think about it, you don't even have to look at the front. No, you can have a meeting in the car. Maybe there's a round table inside the car and you can have meetings with other people. Maybe you can enjoy yourself, play PlayStation or do some work while you're commuting. So the notion of commuting is going to change totally in the coming years because of these technologies.
And what about the people who are concerned that this will just lead to more accidents on the road? Like, is it possible like that technology is at a state where it can even be more, they can actually be better drivers than people?
Okay, so first of all, I tell these people that they shouldn't travel by air. Okay, because if you take aeroplanes, 90% of the flight is in the hands of the autopilot. Okay, but people do not realize it because they know there's a pilot and they're reassured that there's a person there. But really and truly, most of the flight is happening because of the autopilot. And today there's also auto landing as well. So not even the pilot is landing the airplanes. Now, apart from that, I mean, when we go back to cars, self-driving cars especially, are extremely safe. And even though there have been some accidents, but when you compare, the amount of accidents which happened with these cars comparing to what happens normally in a daily life, I mean, remember, most of these accidents happen because of human error. So if we are eliminating most of this human error, then most probably it's much more safer than a normal driver. And if you consider that self-driving cars today have a comprehensive driving experience of 60 years of continuous driving. So none of us can reach that. At most we can drive for 3 years continuously in our lifetime. But these cars collate information from all the other cars. So they're constantly learning. So the amount of safety and cases which they meet on a daily basis is increasing. And of course, personally I think they're much safer.
And besides the self-driving cars, what are some of the other potential applications of AI in improving transport in Malta?
Okay, there are loads. First of all, I mentioned the planes because they're already in use, but people do not realize there's the self-driving cars. Another important aspect is drone delivery. So, when it comes to logistics, carrying of goods, for example, or messages or whatever, drones will become very popular, not just in Malta, but all over the world. And in fact, one of the new jobs which we believe that this technology will be creating is the drone controller, sort of the traffic controller of drones. Because imagine the future, and not so distant future, because I know that even in Malta they're testing these kind of drones, will be that if I want to send you a parcel or a letter or whatever, I can send it via drone and you receive it almost immediately. Apart from that, then there are,
instead of a postman.
Instead of postman, yes, exactly. Apart from that, there are then the trolleys. In fact, recently the president of the Chamber of Commerce mentioned them. And she said, listen, why actually do we need waiters in restaurants? We can have these autonomous trolleys that actually get you the food to the table and take it back. So it's a very exciting period, and I think we'll see a lot of new developments.
I think, if I may add also, in transportation in general, on land-based transportation, artificial intelligence can also play an important role in traffic management itself on the ground. For example, intelligent lighting. Where you have the traffic lights are linked to each other, and it's not even to the level of AI, but where you would have people who would have crossed the street and the lights are still on red for the traffic. There's no one left, and they just switch over. Or knowing that there are areas which are closed and automatically put up barriers which would prevent other cars from entering and divert traffic into another direction. So all this is also AI. It's not in the vehicle, but it's on the road, which is obviously very, very important.
It's true, and actually it goes even further, because one of the things which we can do today, and I actually had a student, is to actually optimize the road network. So the AI would have an overview of what's happening all over Malta, and it can calculate the best routes for individual cars. Now,
based on the traffic flows and everything.
Exactly, it takes everything into consideration, which of course a person cannot do. Okay, and then what happened is that the new cars that are being developed are called connected vehicles. So they would be connected to the centralized control of Transport Malta or any other authority, and they get live information about what's happening in the network, so that they can actually spread the different cars across the network and ensure that there is no clogging.
So that can be a potential solution for traffic as well.
Indeed, yes.
And finally, just to wrap this up, are there any key areas of connectivity in Malta, be it regions or lack of connectivity between two modes of transport that still need to be developed in Malta?
Yes, there's a lot that can still be developed, for sure. There are still some areas where, for example, let's take it from a public transport point of view, where the frequency of service might not be that efficient yet. Or, for example, the route would be too long, so it can take a little bit too long to get to a final destination. There's a fine balance between, for example, the number of times that a person wants to interchange, for example, or the number of modes of transport that a person wants to take, and how much time they are willing to gain by all that interchanging, that type of balance. But yes, there is other things that can be done, for sure. For example, because it's very thematic at the moment on sea transport, I strongly believe that the sea is very underutilized at the moment, and there are many other places that can be linked by sea. For example, Melliha, Slema, Shajra, Bizebuja, Marsalforn, all these are areas which can be linked by sea, and alleviating all the pressure that there is currently on the streets.
If I can maybe share a dream which I have on this context, I think we should move away from, I call it the car god, that we have this dependency on cars. And one of the things I would really love to see, especially because tomorrow is World Environment Day as well, is that the city centers are given back to the people. And of course, you use alternate means of transport, like the scooters or whatever. But we remove the cars from the city centers, create pedestrianized area where people can have fun and enjoy their cities, their localities, and of course, reduce pollution, improve their quality of life and everything.
I think, especially like you mentioned, it's World Environment Day tomorrow. I think it's very important that these kind of solutions are being discussed, like not just, we need to protect the environment, but like that's true, but what can we actually do, and what technologies are present as well. Also, I think the issue of sea transport is crucial. Malta as an island, it's a perfect resource, right? I don't see why it's not being used enough. And in fact, it seems to be going in that direction, right? We're seeing the fast ferries, we're seeing other pontoons popping up, so hopefully we're going in that direction. That's it for us from today. Thank you for following Lovin Daily. Make sure you follow lovinmalta.com for all the latest developments on the country, and until we meet again, have a day full of loving.